loved this book so much, and this movie when I was a kid was just so, I don't know how to describe it. I could really relate to Scout, and I have lots of stories to share about this, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Here we go. We're going great. All righty. Da-da-da.
It looks like we're streaming live on Facebook, Kathy.
We're streaming live on Facebook. Can you all see me? Here we go. Okay, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. This is Kathy L. Murphy reporting as the Pulpwood Queen. We're going to be discussing my favorite film and book of all time, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. And I will tell you, this was probably the most best-loved book club selection book ever. And it also was the Academy Award-winning film, To Kill a Mockingbird. So as we begin this story, and I know all of you that are here have seen it and probably read the book. I read it every year and watch the film every year. But I wanted to give a little backstory about this. When they had the 50th anniversary of To Kill a Mockingbird, I called my daughters and said, we're going to Monroeville, Alabama. So we hopped into my car and we traveled to Monroeville. And I'm telling you, once you get past Hattiesburg, Mississippi, you're not going to see anything but kudzu and telephone poles all the way into Monroe. But it was so, it still gives me the chills, because when you drive into the town, it's exactly the same way it was when that movie was filmed. There's the courthouse. We went to the live production of To Kill a Mockingbird that was done first half outside on the yard. They had set up stadium seating. And then when we after the intermission, we went in the iconic courthouse to watch the end of the movie. It was quite spectacular, and people came from all over for that anniversary. It's one of the best times I ever had with my kids. And what was you guys' first experience of watching the show?
Well, so I read the novel first.
Yeah.
Before we get started, let's introduce a couple of people we have with us this evening. We have Boo Radley, and we have Ms. Jean Louise Scout, who is dressed up as a ham this evening.
Raise that up a little higher, Jean Louise. Yeah, we can't see the bottom part of your costume. There we go.
Great.
You've got to see the whole thing. That is just absolutely priceless. So I am really, it's just really cute. I think, Mandy, you have just taken the cake. She always says, I never dress up. Honey, you nailed it tonight, and so did you. Ruthie Landis in Chicago as our Boo. Are you going to play the role the entire night like this, Boo?
She's been traumatized.
I'm just waiting for the Wrigley's gum and the little soap characters to come out of the tree, and all the little hidden things that were in the tree. So for those that do not know the story, this was probably the same truths that were evident when this film first came out are still true today, because it's a movie about, you know, what it was like in this time in the sleepy little town in the South as we started going into the unfair and unjust treatment of people based upon color. I absolutely, as a child, was fascinated with the story, and I'm still think we're kind of going through it all over again. So the characters that they played in the film were so well cast. Gregory Peck could not have been a better Atticus Finch. And the three characters of the children were actually, these were kids that were in a dance class in Montgomery, Alabama. They went there looking for child actors, and that's where they were cast from. The two boys that played Dill and played Jim, and Mary Badley, who played Scout, were actually in a dance class together and never been in a movie before. And they were so authentic, the way the children played. And my favorite scene was when they snuck in the back, and then the boy got his pants on the fence, and instead of trying to get out of him, he was so scared he just scrambled out of them and left him behind. And it's so touching. The story of the children and how we build up things in our mind from the shadows of the trees and nightfall and how things look different. And then also, we have several stories going on at the same time. And for those of you who have not seen the film, I highly recommend it. And it did win the Academy Award. And then the book by Harper Lee was a first book. First author, first book. And I often wonder to myself, what would have happened if that book had come out today? It would have been a lot different. So anyway, what was your first experience? Yes, Boo. Is that really your arm? It almost looked like it wasn't even a part of your body. It's so much bigger. Is that just me, or am I just going, yeah, okay, whatever.
Okay, I loved what you just said about there are many stories, and I watched it again last night. I don't know, 15th time I've watched it, whatever. And what sticks with you really is the courtroom scene is what sticks with you. It's like the African Americans up on the balcony and them down and Scout with the Reverend up there, and then the whole way that Atticus unfolds his trying to defend this man who's completely innocent. And so that sticks with you. And so last night I was really looking at it, like trying to neutralize, trying not to like look at it like with really fresh eye. And do you know that the whole story about Tom Robinson is not really introduced until 50 minutes into the movie?
Isn't that crazy?
50
It really is.
minutes into the movie. So clearly they were establishing something else first. Right. Why did they spend 50 minutes without any introduction? And then and then at the end, when Maudie, which is a character, very interesting character, like, did she have a relationship with Atticus, or is it all hidden, or what? But when she says to Jem and to Scout, there are some men in this world that are meant to do the things that none of us can do. Nobody else will do. And your father is one of those men. And so I just, that was such a powerful line, delivered by someone who really had a very small role. I mean, she was a presence, right, Maudie, but she really, that he would say, Maudie, stay with the kids, or like, so there was some intimacy there. There was some real deep closeness, but she has that line. And I think that line is as important as anything else, is that he stands in contrast to anyone else in terms of doing the right thing, and
even when you can't win.
Even when you can't win. And so they're establishing this relationship of these children with this father and no mother is, to me, like, then I go, well, what is this really about? Is it about racism? Or is this story really a love story of a father and a daughter and a son? It feels to me like, yes, there is that certainly that's what we walk away with. But if you look at the shape of the piece, it really is more about having a father that was unlike anybody else's, and who shaped them. Just all the little things, like the way he handled her, and when she was so feisty and would fight, because he knew that she had him in her too, but and then how Jem would stand up to him and he'd go, "You're not coming with me. I'm coming. You're not coming with me. I'm coming." Like that child who just Jem. Oh my God, what a kid, and they were two pieces of him kind of put together. So I just wanted to say that because I really saw that it was with such fresh eyes. And then of course the other families, right? The other, no, there wasn't that. Like Dill had, a weird aunt, and there was no attachment in anything else that you saw. Cunningham and the kid, and everybody else in contrast to this family was, blatant, I thought. So that's all I have to say.
Well, I was going to bring up Walter Cunningham, how you said that, because like how he was, how all together they were raising Scout and Jem to be good people. And so it's like when you said I don't know if it's so much about racism, it was, of course that was a big part of it, but it's all of it, like how you just treat everybody.
And the judgment, I mean, about Boo, about me,
Yeah.
is like everybody judged Boo. Boo could have been, an African-American person, right? He was hated and here he was the Mockingbird.
They were all scared of him, and yeah, and it's like
and he was the Mockingbird.
He's the one that saves them.
He saves them, and all he's there to be is a gentle, like they say about the Mockingbird, all it does is sing,
So Rita, you were talking about the court scene. So in the novel, the court scene the courtroom only is about 15% of the novel. In the film, it's about 30%. And the film, because Gregory Peck was a wonderful person, also a wonderful actor, but he was concerned that the children had too many scenes. So he wrote 20 to 30 pages of notes on how the courtroom scene needed to be expanded. So that's why it plays such a significant part in the film as opposed to the novel, which I thought was interesting.
Do you think that was ego driven, or do you think he had an agenda?
I think a combination of, he felt like he needed more time on the screen. And he also had reasons in his mind from a story perspective why he thought he needed to be represented more. But did you know that when he does his 9-minute summation, that he did that in one take?
That's amazing.
wow,
Amazing. It's very powerful. It's very powerful. And to sit in that actual courtroom with my kids while this play was being done, I still get chills about it. And, we were fortunate enough to be there to meet the woman who played Scout. And, it's so funny. That movie came out about when I was a child. So I don't know why I just had in my head that, oh, she's probably not even alive anymore. She was only like 4 years older than me, And when she spoke to all of us in that, I still get chills. And I see in my mind's eye, my kids all sitting in there, and they've all got their copies of To Kill a Mockingbird, and they're all reading it along with her talking. And it's one of those moments in life that for me as a reader, will be always probably one of my most precious times with my family on a trip, was seeing them in the courthouse of that wonderful place. And it was so interesting because after it was over, the man who played the judge in the film, he said, "Well, I understand you're an author." And I said, "Oh, yes." And he said, "Oh, well, we're just thrilled to have you here." And he goes, "Let me invite you tomorrow morning to go to the Methodist church." And I said, "I belong to Methodist Church." And he goes, "Well, that's the church where, Harper and her sister went. And we would love to have you come and join us." And when we went to church the next day, they recognized us in the church. And we were like, oh my gosh, and then they gave us the tour. But the funniest part of all, we had my daughter's brand new boyfriend went with us. And he goes, "Oh, I didn't bring anything to wear to church." So at the last minute, we ran across the street to the Salvation Army across from the courthouse, and he went in and he found a three-piece suit, and he's tall and it fitting perfectly, and a pair of shoes. So he had a suit to wear to church. And we still, that's now my son-in-law, so it was one of those trips we'll never forget. But at the same time, to meet Mary, she's a lovely, wonderful person. And she got out of acting at a fairly, by high school, she was done. And her sister put her in a school. Her mother had passed away, and she married her childhood sweetheart. And she has been involved in education and working with children ever since. And it was very inspiring to hear her speak. And I feel like that's one of the coolest book things that ever happened to me. But as far as I would encourage anybody who has never been able to go there to go, because they have one of the most wonderful museums within the courthouse that has, Truman Capote's typewriter. It has all the memorabilia, the home of Harper Lee and Truman Capote, which were next door, are gone now. But they have little birdhouses all over town, signifying, the Mockingbird. And it's really a wonderful place to go. But as far as the film, to me, if there was one book, one film to kind of sum up everything that I think is the best in life, is that we learn from this story, because it's a story that we can learn from every time we read it. I used to relate to Scout because I was very much like Scout as a child. And now I think I relate to the lady, Mrs. Dubose, who was in the bed.
Don't you hate me, Jean Louise? You come back here, you ugly girl.
I have to say, you asked when we read it. I'm embarrassed to say I was 40 before I read it, and then I watched the movie. And that's I used to make a joke and say that's the only regret I have about dropping out of high school, because I would have read it if I'd, it would have been, part of the required reading. But Mike Henderson, my friend Mike Henderson, bought me a copy. He said, you've got to read it. And he said, and the movie's on, I guess it was Netflix or something. And he was like, after you read it, watch the movie. And then we got together and drank some moonshine and talked about it. We stayed up to like 3 o'clock in the morning talking about it.
How about we've got TK Thorne, who's an author in Birmingham. When was the first time you saw the film or read the book, TK?
The first time I remember seeing the film was at the Alabama Theater in Birmingham.
That's a fabulous theater too.
Yeah, and Mary Badham was there and talked to him afterwards. Yeah, so that was pretty cool. That's the first time I remember. I may have seen it before that, but I don't recall it. The film is great. The book I've read more than once. And the character that really, the last time I read the book, the character of, oh gosh, now I can't think of her name. What was the name of the girl that claimed that she was raped?
Mayella.
Mayella.
Ewell.
Right. So the character of Mayella really affected me, because that's somebody that's completely forgotten. And I ended up writing a poem about what happens to her.
Really?
You have it? Could you read it?
Share it with us. We should put it in the magazine. What is that poem? Do you still have it?
I'll look. I'm sure I do. Yeah. Let me see if I can find it.
TK, I'd love to put it in I would love to put it in the magazine.
Oh man, yeah.
Well, while TK's looking, I'm going to read just a brief excerpt from the novel.
Okay.
Thank goodness.
Okay. Macomb was an old town, but it was a tired old town when I first knew it. In rainy weather, the streets turned to red slop, grass grew on the sidewalks, the courthouse sagged in the square. Somehow it was hotter then. A black dog suffered on a summer's day. Bony mules hitched to Hoover carts flicked flies in the sweltering shade of the live oaks on the square. Men's stiff collars wilted by 9 in the morning. Ladies bathed before noon, after 3 o'clock naps, and by nightfall were like soft tea cakes with frostings of sweat and sweet talcum. People moved slowly then. They ambled across the square, shuffled in and out of the stores around it, took their time about everything. A day was 24 hours long, but seemed longer. There was no hurry, for there was nowhere to go, nothing to buy, no money to buy it with, nothing to see outside the boundaries of Macomb County. But it was a time of vague optimism for some of the people. Macomb County had recently been told that it had nothing to fear but fear itself.
That's one of the most powerful, parts of the story. My other favorite part of the story was when the rabid dog showed up. That is a pivotal moment in the film, showing who Atticus Finch really was, what he was made of. The kids saw him as this passive man who, just didn't seem, wore a suit, wasn't very strong. And when the rabid dog showed up and they said, you've got to do something, and they said, get my rifle. And he showed them, oh, didn't you know your dad was a crack shot, And I remember the look on the little boy's face of looking at his dad, like for the first time after that scene happened. I still get chills on I always had kind of nightmares about a rabid dog showing up. Did anybody? And then later on, Cujo showed up. Stephen
Oh
King.
my God.
That was the first time I was, you always heard about rabies when you were a kid, but we didn't really know what it was, but all of a sudden there it was, in our face. And I remember I adored Gregory Peck and I adored Atticus Finch. And I just thought, oh, if all daddies could be just like Atticus Finch, wouldn't life be wonderful?
Mary Badham said that she spent, when they were filming To Kill a Mockingbird, she spent quite a lot of time with the Pecks, and said that he was very much, like who you'd think that he would be, Gregory Peck.
He was like a father to her, and she was with him to the very end. And he treated her she just adored him too. In fact, pretty much everybody who ever knew Gregory Peck just loved him. He was it was very well cast. All of the characters were perfect. And I don't think, let's see, who's living still today? Mary Badham. I think most of the characters have, Dill is gone. Robert Duvall's still around, of course, and he's still doing amazing things. And was that his first film, Robert Duvall? I think it was.
So it was his first major role, but he had a debut in a film prior to that. So I guess it was the second film.
Yeah.
And
did you? No, I was just going to say, I want to hear the poem so badly, but I do just also want to say something else, and that is, when characters are so well developed and when the story has such a clear arc to it, it's so low budget. It was such a low budget film. Think about how many sets there were, like nothing. There was the inside of the house, right? The bedroom and the kitchen and the porch. There was outside on the street and Boo Radley's porch and the little forest. There was just going into the school, like just a shot of him leading her there as the ham. And then there was the courtroom and their street. That's all there was. I mean, from a film perspective, it's like, talk about low budget, talk about not having to create sets, talk about simplicity that had so much power. And, now they spend gazillion dollars, and don't have even the same impact as that did in black and white yet.
I honestly prefer that myself. And I've seen every rendition of the play itself in theater, from college theaters, community theaters, to student, whatever. I've seen every rendition of it. And it's pretty amazing. But they do the reenactment, I think, once a year, where all the townspeople come together. It's all cast by the locals. And I think the judges play the judge's role. And I think they bring different people in to play the attorney. But the show, it was so close to what I remembered from the film. Now the book goes in a lot more into detail. There's a lot more characters in the book, just like it's very important that we all read the book. And if you haven't read Go Set a Watchman, which was the original rendition of To Kill a Mockingbird, told from her perspective as an adult, it's a wonderful comparison read, because I think you get the full picture when you read Go Set a Watchman against To Kill a Mockingbird, and then you watch the film and you kind of all see it come into play. But it's one that I hope lives on forever, that people can learn that we need to be better as people. And I realize that we're all human and we can learn from it. So it's just a really great thing. Any one thing that stand out from you in the book or the movie that was the most memorable for you guys?
All of it. It's just like, it's so funny because like how Ruthie started out the conversation with, there's so many stories in the story.
So
and
many
it's
memorable moments.
Oh yeah, and it's so
I
funny
even-
because I was a lot like Scout, and so it's like when I read it, I was just like, oh my God, you had that feel, and like they were writing about me.
And
years
her
ago- Go ahead.
her Scout's power, like that he never took her voice away. And it was her truthful innocence that saved her father, when she just looked at Mr. Cunningham and said, hi, Mr. Cunningham, I'm Walter's friend. And, it was like that, all the eloquence, all the eloquence in the world didn't have as much power as that moment. If only she could have gotten up and talked at the trial, because she was so truthful and innocent. I do want to say one other thing, and that was the relationship with Calpurnia. And they didn't have a mom, and she really stepped up to be their mother. And I do think they were colorblind around her. I really do think they were. And that one scene when he says, I'm going to take Calpurnia home, and you wonder where's she going to sit? And they had her sit behind, in the back seat, but not like she was special, like he was the driver. And
Yeah.
she was the important person. Do you know it? Didn't you feel
like
that?
he was her chauffeur instead
He was
of
the chauffeur.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, she was treated with much respect, and she was treated like a member of the family.
Yeah.
And
The scene with the maple syrup with Walter Cunningham, and when Scout's such a little turd, and Calpurnia takes her in the kitchen and threatens like she's going to spank her. It's like, oh my! I just watch that scene over and over because Scout's little attitude to her, and it's like she doesn't care. She is not going to put up with that. Oh
No. What are you doing to that? You ruined it, But
I love
Sweet.
it when you meet Dill for the first time and he emerges and he's full of stories. I won this beautiful baby contest.
he is. I mean, like, you just want to squish him and follow him around.
And, so many people don't realize that was, Truman Capote was Harper Lee's, the little neighbor kid who came to stay with his aunt because his mom was always off somewhere. And it was his story. And when you go to Monroeville, you get to learn kind of about both their stories, because in the museum, everything's covered. I mean, they've even got a rendition of the tree in the museum, and because the tree's no longer there, that had the little hidden, place in it. And but walking the streets it's very small town, very small, but it really brought it. It's kind of like when I went to go see where they filmed The Birds. It's just exactly like you pictured it. Some of the buildings are gone, but you hear those, the birds swooping and stuff. You go, oh my gosh, if you close your eyes for a minute, you're right back to where that place was. So it's a wonderful story. I hope everybody watches the film, and I especially hope everybody reads the book, because it is an American masterpiece. And I do often wonder if it was published today, if it would get published,
Why do you say that, Kathy?
I
wonder why every time when you say it, it's like I always wonder, why do you say that? Because
I think right now in the climate of the world today, it's the story of a white woman telling the story of a perspective. I think it's kind of like this should be told from maybe a Black perspective. I don't know. It's just
Harper Lee's not writing as that character. She's writing as Scout, the voice of the little girl that just sees the story. I think if it had never been written and came out right now, I think people would love it. I think that it would, because of what the story is saying. Like, what?
The original version was not told from a child's perspective. It was told from her as a grown adult. Go Set a Watchman was told, and then the publisher's the one that suggested that she tell it from.
Well, she said she picked out the chapter that was when she was younger, and said, "This is your story right here. This is what," and so that chapter turned into To Kill a Mockingbird.
Right, and I love it, but I love the story that she wrote too. I think they're just kind of like bookends. They both need to be read together so you can kind of understand what was going on in that time in the United States, in the South. It's very interesting, but it's still my favorite, a favorite of all time. So I'm very excited. Did you find the poem, TK?
I did, believe it or not. Yes.
Can you read it for us?
Please.
I can.
Yay, okay.
Okay, this as a preface, in case somebody's just now coming in. This is Mayella's story after everything is over. And it's called The Dead Mockingbird. My pa is dead. They say he fell on his knife. No, that boo boy killed him. The kids told it true. My pa is dead. Tom Robinson's dead too, shot dead. His blood red as my geraniums against the rotted fence. But I couldn't get the smell off either of me. I couldn't get the smell of either off me. I head to the woods, to the cold creek, to walk in, my clothes clinging like sin, and look up through the water, drowning my eyes with stars. They stare back like all those glances that flesh when I pass. There goes that girl, that Mayella, their silent stares say. She tried to seduce a Negro, a dead Negro now, but still. Rape, they declare to each other. They will never understand the black deep pit of my desiring, my need to have something because I wanted it, because I said I need. It was always what Pa wanted, what he said he needed. I was a worm squirming in the dark soil, yanked out, hooked, fed to the hungry fish. My pa's dead. Tom Robinson's dead, my Negro that I desired. My world I shattered into pieces like the stars. They stare back at me. I won't be missed, except maybe by my geraniums.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that was
My
lovely.
God. Oh my God. Oh my
That's
God.
beautiful.
Thank you. It's a little heavy.
Oh,
No,
no.
it is, it feels so right. It feels like, how could she go on? She was shamed. And
You
the
made me
other
weepy.
thing, oh my God, you know, it is another movie because look at, both her and Scout and Jem were motherless. She had to be the mother, right? And she gave them each nickels to go get ice cream for the seduction, and that she says, and you feel like if only she had had a different, like if she had had a mother or if she had had something.
A tragic character, certainly. And you did, you know, TK, just what a lovely job to think through and give.
What made you write that? I'm dying to know. What, just from watching the film or reading the book, or what made you?
Let's see, in Alabama a few years ago, we had a thing where the whole state read one book, and it was To Kill a Mockingbird. And
Yeah,
I read it, and I was asked to do a review on it. So I read it, and it just, something about those, in the book, she has red geraniums, Mayella does. And that was like the only thing of beauty in her life, because we know, her father was nasty in every possible way, and beat her when he found her, and probably wouldn't stop beating her, I'm sure, over that.
And I think Tom Robinson probably was the only person in her world that was kind to her.
absolutely.
Yes, yeah. And she had, it was a desire to have something, to have some love in her life, I guess.
Just beautiful. Gosh, thank you for finding that and sharing that.
Oh,
I'm
God.
so glad you came and told us this tonight. I feel like that was the perfect ending to our discussion for the book and film club. Thank you, TK. And definitely, Mandy, we need to talk to TK about that story. That's beautiful. Has it ever been published? Your poem?
I think it got published in a little local arts journal in Birmingham, and that's all.
Okay. All right. Well, it's beautiful. Beautiful. I love it. That's just was such a big surprise for tonight for all of us. Thank you so much for coming to share it with us tonight. And that is absolutely beautiful. Look at her little ham. That's
Well, losing sad for me. I've got to laugh a little bit.
God, Mandy.
I love it.
Mandy.
I love it.
So
You guys
Kathy,
are all, yes.
so just one quick little anecdote about Mary Badham. She and the actor that played Jim, Philip Alfred, anyway, they did not get along.
I know.
She would stand off set and mimic him saying his lines and distract him. And
She had them all memorized. Every
did.
single line in the whole script. She had the whole thing memorized. Yep.
So there is one scene, and she's sitting on the steps and she's talking to Jim. And the camera was on him and she was in profile and she was saying his lines.
Oh,
She was saying, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was very subtle, and I was so surprised that the director let that take go. But
I've watched it a million times. I've never seen that.
she just is very subtly saying, her lips are moving and saying his line.
One more thing, and another thing we have to look at when you get back to watch the film, I was told that, when the opening credits, when the marble is rolling, that if you look closely, you can see the reflection of the cameraman in the marble.
No. Wow.
This movie up.
That's very, very cool. I did not know that either. Well, it's been a wonderful experience, and I hope years ago when they had that One Books, One City program, we had to have a read aloud of that. We did it with the Marshall News Messenger, and try reading that book out loud. There's a lot of language in it that was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I read this.
Now I understand.
Well, I've got to go because we've got some other things going on here in this building. So you guys have a great weekend. I'll have it up on our YouTube channel. And thank you all for joining us at the Book and Film Club. Okay.
What's next week? Just what's next week?
We don't know yet. We have to, I think we're done with this round of films. So I'll reach out.
Dean Stanley.
That's right. There is one more film.
Yeah, one more film. And then
It's called Dean Stanley.
Deen Stanley. It's fabulous.
Okay, thank you.
Fabulous. And we'll get that up so you guys can see it. It's Mandy Haynes recommended that film to me. And if you haven't seen it, it's fabulous. It's the most unusual film I've ever seen. So then we'll get a whole new schedule and we'll try to let you know what those are coming up. So we'll get together, Robert. Thank you for being my co-host. Thank you, Ruthie, for always dressing up. Thank you, Mandy, for your fabulous costume. And thank you, TK, for the incredible read. That was a blessing. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody. We'll see you at the movies. Have some popcorn and watch To Kill a Mockingbird. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.